I've heard you say that this is something that's needed in the 21st century. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Well, one of the most outstanding aspects of it is that to recognize that Jesus was changing the paradigm in that first century of the truth of who is in God's favor and who is not, the limitations of God's love, where the society and culture had built all these barriers and were exclusive. Their religion was exclusive in the sense of pointing out all the people who were outside and had no hope of ever finding God's love. Jesus brought a new paradigm that expanded all, tore those barriers down, blasted those barriers away, and basically taught about God's inclusive love. Today in the 21st century, we have a similar situation. We're very quick in our religious circles and within the denominations and churches to point out the way, that the rules that you have to obey, that if you don't obey, mean that you are not a Christian, and therefore you're going to hell, and that you do not have God's favor. And we have become a very exclusivistic religion again, creating barriers and pointing out the few who are really going to make it. And those few happen to be the ones who believe just like us. But the truth is that in the 21st century, more than ever again, we need to hear Jesus' message that God's love is different than what religions often make it. That in our religious society, in our religious culture, and in our denominations, we tend to define and exclude, and the very nature of God's love is inclusiveness. And the very nature of God's love is greater, far greater than we have the ability to even comprehend. And that in reality, God's love extends to virtually all people, that no one is outside the reach of God's love. The inclusivity is absolutely incredible. The universality, the inclusiveness of God's love, the unconditional nature of God's love. Wow, that stretches our own mind's ability to even comprehend that such a thing could happen, that such a thing could be, that God's love could be anything like that. We don't teach that in our churches because we can't comprehend it. We teach more sense that, well, if I were God, I would make all the rules, and if people didn't follow the rules, they'd be out.
So would you say you're bringing a new message to Christianity?
I'm not bringing a new message at all. I'm bringing the message of Jesus that Jesus brought into the first century. The paradigm that Jesus brought into the first century that said, listen people, God's love is different than how it's being broadcast. That God's love is not exclusive and barrier creating like we are seeing within the society. God's love is inclusive. God's love is there and available, accessible for all people. And in that same sense, the message that the play brings and the message that is needed in the 21st century is not a new message that someone should create, but it's a message to suddenly see and look at Jesus' ministry message, what Jesus took seriously, what Jesus was saying, and hear his paradigm again. And if we hear Jesus' paradigm in the 21st century, it would expand our own definition of God's love, our own awareness of the depth and reach and scope of God's love, and would remove barriers that we tend to put up, the exclusivity that we often use in our judgmental aspects, and it would make us much more inclusive and much more in line with the paradigm and the message of Jesus.